it's Lisa from Mind Body Engineering, and I've got one of the best damn women I know with me today, and we're going to talk about what she does. Her name is Sheny Moolji, and she's actually a newer friend of mine. I met her at Orange Theory Fitness. We've rolled our eyes many times at each other because of rowing or burpees or whatever. But I think she has a really interesting job, and I think it's neat to hear, how her job normally is, and how it's changed with this whole COVID thing. So Sheny, tell us, well, first of all, welcome. And tell us, what do you do for a living?
So I'm an airline pilot for Sunwing Airlines.
That's cool.
I think everyone knows what that is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as an airline pilot, what were your general duties?
So basically, I'm a first officer at Sunwing. I fly the 737NG and also the MAX before it got grounded. Second in command as a first officer. So if the captain croaks or something happens, it all falls on me. But for the most part, safe operation of the aircraft, getting passengers from A to B, getting them to their vacations. Sunwing, it's big on vacation travel. That's what we do. And getting you there, as opposed to getting stuck somewhere because we sold our lift to, say, Air Canada or WestJet or anybody else out there. And if they ends up canceling a flight and now you're out of your week or 2 week vacation and you're stranded and you're now struggling trying to find a flight, Sunwing doesn't do that. We may delay a flight for maintenance or weather or whatever, but we will get you there. That's our big thing. So
where did you fly primarily?
Caribbean. It's all Caribbean stuff. That's Sunwing, right? So it's a lot of Caribbean.
And I do remember you did fly within Canada as well, right?
Air Canada Express, yeah. So I did a lot of U.S. Northeast, plus Texas, Atlanta, Chicago, Minneapolis, but a lot of Philadelphia, D.C., New York, Newark, all out that area. And so it was a lot of fun.
So how did, when this whole COVID thing started, the airlines, there was chaos.
Absolutely.
So how did this affect you guys?
Well, Sunwing was one of the first companies to ground the fleet. Not ground the fleet, that's the wrong choice of words, but to shut down operations. So I think it was about a week to 10 days. They said, okay, we're shutting down. I think it was a week. I think we had a week's notice. And so the last week that we were in operation, we were repatriating Sunwing passengers back to Canada. So a lot of people were cutting their vacations short.
Right.
Sunwing took the initiative to also bring back non-Sunwing passengers, which I thought was really cool. So the very last pairing, so the way it works, we do pairings, which is typically anywhere from 3 to 7 days, and you go with the same crew for that amount of time, and you go and do the same trips back and forth. Start in Canada, go down the Caribbean, back to Canada, down the Caribbean, back to Canada. So overnights are either in the Caribbean or anywhere else in Canada. So I was on a 4-day pairing, and it changed a couple times while I was on the pairing. So I started initially by going to Liberia, Costa Rica. And then when we were down there, that's when things were really starting to become questionable. No one had really decided that they were closing borders yet, but we knew it could happen. We knew that it was being discussed and all that kind of thing, but nothing had really come down yet to stop that. And people were like, are you sure you should go? And I said, look, right now Liberia is fine. They haven't had any reported cases. I think there's 1 or 2 cases or something like that when I went. And of course, as air crew, we're always aware of our surroundings, and you don't know who's coming on board your airplane. You're in a metal tube, gone for a number of hours in this tube with recycled air. You can breathe in anything at any given time, COVID or not. It could be anything.
That's
right?
a really good point, actually.
Right. So people are like, well, why are aircrew exempt? Well, we do take precautions. We always have. Like one of the first things I do when I get into the flight deck is I get something like a Lysol wipe or some kind of sterilizing cloth, and I wipe down all the buttons I'm going to touch and the thrust levers and the control yoke and everything. Like I wipe down everything.
So you've been doing that for a while.
I've been doing that for a few years, like a number of years now.
Wow.
I don't do it every single time because some companies don't make the tools readily available to you. So I've carried my own wipes, and if I have time, I'll do a nice thorough wipe down. And if I don't have time, I do it kind of a little more modified. But now with this whole COVID thing, the company has made sure that we have wipes on board. It's sad that it took this for that to happen. But my last company, we had wipes on board all the time.
Right.
So it wasn't an issue there.
So there's,
but like if you're sitting on a flight deck for 10 hours a day and you've got a little bit of a cold or an irritation in your throat, you're sitting there coughing all over everything. And now I'm going to go sit in that flight deck and I don't know what you've got or had or what's been in here, and never mind people eating and licking their fingers and then touching everything. Like it's disgusting. And I always tell people, if you actually thought about the environment that you're about to enter, you wouldn't do it. Right. It's disgusting. Right. Clearly I love my job. Otherwise I would not be doing that.
Yeah.
So, back to your question, how has it changed? So now my company is providing wipes. Yeah. So we went to Liberia on the last pairing. We were supposed to finish, we came back through Calgary and then Edmonton to overnight for 2 nights in Edmonton. And then we were supposed to just take an airplane to Calgary with a few passengers. Mm-hmm. We were going to get off. They were going to pick up new passengers and new crew and continue down, I think, to Mexico. And we were going to come home on Air Canada. So the night before, around 5 o'clock in the evening, a number of changes actually happened around between 4 and 5. Initially, I was going to, we were going to take the airplane empty, I believe, to Calgary and then come back as planned, but a little bit later because the flight was going to be delayed. I think the plane was coming back late from wherever. We talked about it. I spoke to crew scheduling. I said, make sure our shuttle time is changed. So they looked after that. Well, then I went back to my room after dinner and I got a call. Okay, we changed it back. Your show time is back to what it was, which I think was 6 a.m. or something. And you're going to go down to Huatulco and pick up passengers. I'm like, oh. So it's just the captain and I. And so we just went down empty all the way down to Mexico and brought back 176 or 180 passengers or something like that. I can't remember what it was. As we all know, everything's just changing literally by the minute. Yeah. So it's kind of just that uncertainty, but things were not really closing yet. It was just being, it might happen, it might happen. So I don't think at that point in the game, people really realized how important it was to get home at that time. So yeah, it's neat to be part of that. But I came home from Huatulco, it was good. And then basically came home to, we're getting laid off because Sunwing decided to stop operations. Mm-hmm. Because of our contract, we have to give the pilots 3 weeks notice. So that was our 3 weeks notice. Yeah. So tomorrow is my last day of work, actually. That said, I ended up doing another flight. They asked us, Sunwing, we dry lease aircraft from Europe. We have partners in Europe that we borrow airplanes from for our busy season. And then in the summer, they do the same for us. They use our airplanes and our pilots, and we go fly over there. So we had to return our airplanes a little bit early, but we're starting to take them back. So I got called. I got asked to take a plane to Birmingham. So on our way, this is my first Atlantic crossing. So asking about being a pilot and what that's like. That's kind of one of the bucket list things, so across the Atlantic and everything. So I got to do that. Sadly, the view wasn't so great. We're a little farther south, so I couldn't see like Iceland or anything like that. But hopefully there'll be some more opportunities for it down the road. And landing there was it was just a little surreal because there's not even a plane taxiing. It's just quiet. Like there's no movement. There's no cars on the roads. It's like.
Now, are there planes parked everywhere?
Absolutely. So I was just going to say. Everywhere. But when we left Pearson, they're just parked on the taxiways. Wow. And I was like, looked at them like, wow, that's so weird. And so we get to Birmingham. They're not on the taxiways. They've got a big, long runway, but they have remote parking gates, and they're pretty much all full. Like even the ones at the terminal plus the remote stands, they were all full. Yeah. So we go and we park, and we had about 3 maintenance people and 3 ground crew come and greet us, and they open the door and we do a checklist of all the stuff we have to leave on the plane and everything. And because now we're dropping off this airplane, we're not going to see it till next winter. So we do our thing. We get in the van, and the guy drives us to the terminal to go through customs because we still have to clear customs. So he opens the door. He goes, just go in there and you can clear customs. So my captain and I, we walk in, I'm dragging my stuff, right? And I look, and there's not one person in the customs hall. Not one. And I'm like, where's the customs agent? So finally, this little lady waves out of this booth. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I walk over there and she clears us through. And we're walking and it's just nothing. Like storefronts are closed, lights are off. It's like being somewhere you're not supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
We run into one guy who's sitting in a chair in a hallway. It's almost dark and he's just sitting there. And I'm like, what are you doing here? So we go through, there's nobody. We go outside, we follow the sign for the ground transportation because we're supposed to have a car with a driver meet us. And we go out there and I see one taxi cab parked kind of across the drive, like a wide driveway, if you will. And another one pulls up like a minivan, and that's it. And then this guy comes out of nowhere wearing a vest, a safety vest. And so we tell him, yeah, we're just waiting for our car and whatever. And he's like, and we're just looking. So you can see like there's a hotel just across the parking lot, kind of. There's no activity at all. There's no cars, literally the two cars. There's nothing. It's an airport. It's a major airport. And there's like nothing. It was like
dark.
Wow. It was just, I don't even know how else to tell that. Like it was bizarre.
Yeah.
So we go, the driver comes and he finds us. He takes us to the car. Couldn't believe it. He had to pay for parking. I'm like, really? There's nobody. Anyway. So we go, and then it's about an hour and a half drive to Heathrow because that was the only hotel that the company could find us that wasn't closed. That was a lot more crowded. So anyways, none of the restaurants were open, so I had to get room service. $40 burger. Can't wait for that bill. Wasn't that good either. But it took me about half an hour to get through to room service.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just
But I did get lucky. I got the presidential suite. It was stunning. It was like, wow, glad I took this trip.
So there's parts of your trip that were a dream. No customs people, presidential suite, flying an empty plane to England.
The empty plane, you know what? It changes your routine, though. You get used to doing things a certain way. And so when you don't have the passengers or the flight attendants, it changes everything. So that's where things can start to get missed, right?
Yes.
So we just have to be more on top of our game, saying, okay, well, we don't have them close the door, so we have to close the door now. We don't have them securing everything. We have to do it. That kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
And you don't realize how much you take for granted what they do for you in helping you do your job. Not just like, oh, we'll bring you a coffee, but helping you do your job.
Yeah.
Right? And we always tell them, like, there are eyes and ears in the back of the plane, right? If they see something or hear something that we can't see or hear, we rely on them to tell us.
Wow.
So,
this is all pretty unprecedented territory.
Very much so.
You know, a lot of people have no idea going into this what it's going to look like.
And we don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah. And look at, you're a mother of two teenagers. I could hear one cruising around in the kitchen, I assume, there for a bit.
Yep. She's gone now.
So you've got two daughters home from school right now. And so now you're becoming the role of not the teacher, but you've got to make sure that schoolwork gets done now.
I did wake them up this morning to make sure that they do start some of the schoolwork. They don't have to do it all and sit there like, 9 to 3 type of thing. Mm-hmm. But I do want them to get some done and not let it pile up because they've already been idle for 3 weeks now.
Yeah, it's a big change for everybody.
It is.
So question, have you taken up anything new in all of this?
I've been doing some puzzles. I forgot how much I really enjoyed doing puzzles as a kid. But I'm out of puzzles now, so I need to order some. I ordered one on Amazon yesterday, so who knows when it'll get here.
So thanks for chatting with me today. That was
my
awesome.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
I hope I answered your questions. And
it's really interesting because I know a lot of people's jobs are really changing. Yeah. And how are they changing is a really cool question. I think that can always be asked of everybody. So So thanks.
My pleasure. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you bet. Take care.
Okay, bye.